Rink wide Vancouver, pregame, postgame, every game, presented by Bodog. From sports odds to free casino games, make a play at bodog.net. Wadden and JPat here with you with another edition of the pregame as the Canucks are coming home. JPat, they face off against an LA Kings team, and the Canucks are looking for a back-to-back win for the second time this season.
Yeah, this must be a big deal. It's the only game on the National Hockey League schedule on this Friday night. 30 of the 32 teams are going to play tomorrow, including the Kings, who are in Seattle. Canucks and Arizona are the two teams that are idle on Saturday night, but Canucks and Kings have the stage to themselves, and you're right, back-to-back victories. In fact, the only other time the Canucks did it, it was back-to-back. It was in Seattle and at home to Pittsburgh on consecutive nights. Otherwise, Canuck victories have all been standalones to this point in the season, but they're coming off the end of the road trip, the 5-4 win in Buffalo, and we'll see if they can back it up against their division rivals tonight.
And it looks like Thatcher Demko going to get the start in goal, and perhaps a roster move is coming as well.
Yeah, Thatcher Demko looking for that second victory of the season. He got his first win in Seattle. It feels like a lifetime ago. It was the final week of October, and here we are past the midway point of November. My gut tells me, and I haven't heard from the coach on this one yet, but my sense is, A, they want to get Demko up and running, obviously, and try to get him back on form, but also the LA Kings don't score a lot of goals. They play tight, controlled games, and maybe the thinking is, if this is a rather low-event game, maybe that'll allow Thatcher Demko to find his form and elevate his performance and try to deliver his first home ice victory of the season. The only other win was in Seattle, so winning at home, something that Demko hasn't experienced since last season.
Talk about elevating their performances. JT Miller has been elevating his performance on the power play as of late, 3 straight games with a tally.
Yeah, the power play has been incredible for the Vancouver Canucks, so we know that, and JT Miller's been a big part of it. But yeah, you go back to Toronto in the first period, early in the first period on a breakaway in Boston, and then the other night off that face-off, clean win by Horvat to Miller, and he snapped it home past Craig Anderson. So JT Miller now into double digits in goal scoring. He's got 10, 5 of them. Half of his goals this season have come on the power play. And I just want to touch on the roster move that you mentioned a moment ago. We should say that Curtis Lazar practiced with the team yesterday. He's missed 10 games. His last game action was at home against the Carolina Hurricanes in late October. Hand injury, keeping him out of the lineup, but practice, took part in the morning skate. And it certainly looks like Curtis Lazar is going to return on the fourth line for this hockey club. But in order to activate him from the injured list, they're going to have to make a roster move. Will Lockwood likely to head back to Abbotsford after a fine performance the other night? Looks like Lockwood and Vasily Podkolzin, the extra forwards in the morning skate this morning.
Special teams have been an adventure for the Canucks this year. However, on home ice, they're at both ends of the spectrum between the power play and the penalty kill.
Yeah, it's early season. They've only played 6 home games, so you do have to take these numbers with a grain of salt. But the Canucks are 9 for 22. Up over 40% on the power play, so their next home power play goal will be their 10th of the season already. The flip side there is that it really hasn't mattered an awful lot. They only have the 2 home ice wins, and a big part of that is they can't kill penalties. Their home ice penalty killing right now, heading into this game against Los Angeles, is stuck at 58.8%, so a couple of shades under 60% in those 6 home games. Obviously, a ton of room for improvement in that facet of the game for the Vancouver Canucks.
Canucks have seen plenty of East Coast competition, but they're going to be in the West a lot coming up here, JPat. A stretch of 5 straight, 18 of the next 22 against Western Conference opponents.
Yeah, it's kind of funny the way the schedule works. I mean, every team plays 41 at home, 41 on the road. There are quirks in everybody's schedule, but I do think the fact that the Canucks have been so Eastern heavy with 2 road trips, but also the teams that have come through Vancouver, Buffalo and Carolina and New Jersey and Pittsburgh, a lot of them from the East as well. So for the Vancouver Canucks, this is the one path, I suppose, that could get them back to respectability. I won't even use the other P word, playoffs, but just in terms of getting back to a level of respectability and getting into the mix, you got to beat those teams that are in front of you, but also the teams that you are contending with on a regular basis for playoff spots at the end of the season. And so 5 straight here against the Western Conference and really into the early new year. And here we are now past the midway mark of November. So the next 6 to 7 weeks, 18 of their next 22 games will come against teams in the Western Conference if they can get some traction, if they can get some goaltending, if they can shore up that penalty kill, if their top-end guys can continue to produce and some of the other guys around them can find their games as well. If you can beat the teams that you're competing with for spots in the Western Conference, that is the surest way and the most direct way to climb the ladder for a playoff position.
with former Canuck Alex Edler in town with the LA Kings. That leads us to our question of the day. And we ask you, who is the next player to be named to the Canucks Ring of Honor? Perhaps it's Alex Edler?
I think he's the front runner right now, but it's not going to happen until he finishes his playing days. Same with Matthias Ohlund. We all knew that he was going in there eventually, but it was a matter of his contract expiring with the Tampa Lightning. And then the Canucks felt that it was free to honor him. I think the same sort of thing will happen with Alex Edler, who is in the final year of his contract with the Kings. We'll see if there's more hockey for him, or if this is the final year. Interesting to note, he's 18 games shy of 1,000. If he can stay healthy, I would think by early in the new year, Alex Edler is going to reach that incredible milestone. So an early congratulations to him, because the Canucks don't see the Kings again. They'll play them 3 more times, but not until the middle of March and on. So by then, you would assume that Alex Edler will have reached the 1,000-game mark for his incredible NHL career. But yeah, I mean, Edler seems like he's a natural. There certainly felt like there was a movement afoot with Kevin Bieksa having his night here earlier in the month. Not sure if it's going to happen for Kevin Bieksa. I suppose some would say now that fences have been mended, a guy like Ryan Kessler could be under consideration. And of course, you've got the million-dollar question. What do you do with Roberto Luongo now that he's in the Hall of Fame? I don't think they're going to retire his jersey, but would he accept anything less than a jersey retirement? Does he want to be a Ring of Honor guy when he's got a plaque in the Hockey Hall of Fame?
All right, let's focus in on the Kings for just a moment here. They've won 5 of 6, and they're coming off a big W over the Oilers.
Yeah, and impressive stuff to go into Edmonton and keep McDavid and Draisaitl off the score sheet. Doesn't happen very often, but it did the other night. And a surprise scoring hero in Trevor Moore, who had the hat trick. He had all 3 goals for the Los Angeles Kings, and in doing so, made a little piece of NHL history the other night. He became the first Californian to score a hat trick for a California-based team. So, Look, we know that really Wayne Gretzky moving to Los Angeles sort of started a bit of a movement in terms of producing hockey players in the Golden State, but it's not a long list of guys, and obviously a shorter list that have played for the California teams themselves. But Trevor Moore did something the other night that nobody in hockey history had ever done, scoring a hat trick for a California-based team, a Californian scoring 3 for a California-based team.
All right, the Canucks have seen plenty of this guy, but Jonathan Quick's numbers against the Canucks over the years are pretty damn good.
Yeah, now Cal Peterson was in goal the other night and only gave up the 1 goal to the Oilers, so we'll see if Todd McLellan has a decision to make here. Quick has played twice as much as Peterson. He's still, even at this advanced stage of his career, and he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season, a legacy guy with the 2 Stanley Cups. You wonder if he would go elsewhere, or is this the end of the line for Jonathan Quick? But if he plays against the Canucks, try these numbers on for size. In his career, a 2.03 goals against average, a .926 save percentage, and 5 shutouts.
Oh, man.
But somehow he's only 19, and 4. So when he's been on, he has been lights out good. When it hasn't happened, obviously the Canucks have been able to score enough to get victory. So the win-loss record is not outstanding, but those individual save percentage of the goals against, that'll give the Canucks something to think about for sure.
So you're saying take the under tonight if Quick is in net, perhaps?
I think you take the under most nights with the Los Angeles Kings. Again, they're not a flashy bunch, but you know what they do well? And this is something the Canucks are obviously going to have to contend with. They're a deep team. And again, they may not have the top-end talent that other teams boast, but they made the Kevin Fiala deal. He's basically a point-a-game guy. He leads their team in scoring. And then we talked about Trevor Moore. He's tied for second in scoring for the LA Kings, along with Gabe Vilardi, who's off to this incredible start. The youngster with 10 goals already, so he's into double digits. But then they spread it around. They've got 9 guys that are in double-digit points already this season. And by comparison, the Canucks have just 5. So they get some depth scoring. They get scoring spread around, even Drew Doughty into double digits. So a little bit of offense from the back end from the veteran Drew Doughty, who always seems to be in the mix every time the Canucks and the LA Kings get together.
I'm red hot with my Bodog best bets right now, JPat. Won 3 in a row, but I'm kind of taking a little bit of a risk tonight. Bear with me here. I've got Bo Horvat and Adrian Kempe, both with over 3.5 shots at plus 450. Loads of value there. However, like I said, it's a bit of a risk here. Bo Horvat is averaging 3.76 shots per game. However, Adrian Kempe at only 2.78. A lot of value there, though, liking what I'm seeing from that.
Well, Kempe and Kevin Fiala both can skate like the wind, and we know that speed can be an issue for the Vancouver Canucks. So maybe Adrian Kempe is going to be in the middle of things in this hockey game. We talk about the LA Kings and the fact that they don't do any one thing particularly well, but I suppose they don't really keep a stat for grinding out games, but they've already played 11 of their 19 games have been 1-goal games, and they've won 7 of them. So they seem to be comfortable in these tight games. They seem to find a way to win these hockey games. The Canucks, they have 2 1-goal wins. One was in Seattle, and the other night was in Buffalo. So who knows? Maybe Adrian Kempe has a big night, rises to the challenge again. Nobody outside of Trevor Moore scored for the Kings, so there's probably a couple of guys that think that they're due. And Bo Horvat, he's been money anyway you come in his season so far. He's been good. He's been productive. And I thought the other night in Buffalo was maybe his most well-rounded game with the goal, the 2 assists, the 8 shots on goal. You don't need 8 from Bo, but you take them certainly if the captain comes up with that many shots on target tonight.
Yeah, 4 or more, Bo. 4 or more. That's all we need. 4.5 times your money there. Pretty good. And that would be pretty good too, because we're giving away some Bodog Bucks. JPat, here's what you got to do. Guess the time and the period of the game-winning goal. The person that guesses the correct period and is closest to the time of the game-winning goal will win $75 in Bodog Bucks. Now, you have to have a Bodog account, and we'll be doing that on Twitter. So at Rinkwide Podcast, look for the tweet and then put your time and the period. Good luck. $75. That could go a long way if you're good at betting like I am on Bodog.
Yeah, and again, just to be clear, this is the game-winning goal either side. This isn't just from a Canucks perspective, even though we do a Canucks pregame show here. If the Kings prevail, we're looking for the time and the period of that game winner tonight.
All right, perhaps the game-winning goal will be scored by this guy who needs to do something tonight from the Canucks.
Well, we've used him before, and it hasn't happened for him yet, but I'm going back to Brock Besser, and I'm hoping that those Kings colors on the other side bring out the best in Brock Besser and help him produce his first goal of the season. You go back to last year, his last goal, he actually scored twice against the Kings in the Canucks home finale last year, one in overtime, and Besser pulled the trigger on the overtime winner. So there's something about the Kings there. His last hat trick in the NHL, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself for a guy that hasn't scored a goal, but his last hat trick, it came against the Los Angeles Kings as well. In his career, in a dozen games against the Kings, Brock Besser has scored 10 times. So he's been there and he's done that against this opponent. Now, again, it looks like he's going to line up on the third line, perhaps with Nils Höglander if Sheldon Dries stays in the lineup. They didn't have a great night in Buffalo. They didn't play an awful lot, so hopefully they take some strides forward here in this game. Maybe it's a power play. It looks like Besser's going to be on the second unit to start. Whatever the case, he needs that first one. I know he's got 9 assists in the 11 games, so there has been an element of production for him, but he's a goal scorer. And I'm sure he wants to snipe that first one of the season, wants to get that feeling, and the team certainly would welcome it. Of course, the Canucks wearing the reverse retros again. We know the backstory there. Didn't go too well against New Jersey. Those Sprite cans a couple of years ago in the no fans in the stands, the all-Canadian division, they were winless in those as well. So could be a first here if they come through in the reverse retro. Johnny Canuck and maybe Brock Besser will be Johnny on the spot to get his first goal of the season tonight. He's got to do something to help the Canucks back up their win in Buffalo with another against the LA Kings.
All right, big one tonight as the hockey world will be focused on Vancouver. As you mentioned, it's the lone game on the NHL schedule tonight with a big divisional opponent in town. See if the Canucks can go back-to-back with wins for the second time this year. This has been another edition of the Rinkwide Vancouver podcast presented by Bodog. For Jeff Patterson, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rinkwide is the show that always scores.